Great. Thank you very much for being here. We will try to not disappoint you, even though we are not Florent. So we want to speak a bit on why leveraging AI in manufacturing and what's in it in manufacturing, what's in it in AI for the manufacturing industry, and why even, thinking about embedding AI in manufacturing. Now, we probably all agree that most companies, have started to work on a couple of lighthouse projects, and the question whether we should work on AI or not and embed AI is no longer really the question. But the new challenge is rather how can we scale beyond those first few projects, and how can we actually embed AI in essentially all different kinds of operative processes and really make a value gain from an artificial intelligence in organization. And that's probably also the hardest question, because doing and delivering analytics at scale in large organizations is actually probably the biggest challenge. Now, if we look actually, where is the manufacturing industry compared to other industries, we see that there is still actually quite a lot of opportunities that we can leverage to get to that undiscovered value, compared to, for example, the media industry, where obviously AI has already been actually quite present and played a quite big role. The automotive industry, has still quite some positive ROI that we can actually get to relatively quickly. Same for the banking and financial industry. You probably all know about risk management use cases, fraud use cases that have already been developed for quite some time. Now, again, every organization wants to scale with AI. Every organization wants to, provide better customer experience, improve the employee productivity, accelerate innovation, and boost revenue. But as a matter of fact, obviously we don't just do it for fun, but we do it for profit. And in reality, 75 to 85% of all the projects that we develop fail, and they're never really deployed into production. If we look again more into the quantitative numbers of how much is in it for us in terms of value in the manufacturing industry, what you can see here is a study from McKinsey's AI Playbook that was published in 2020. You can see here all different kinds of sizes of bubbles. And if we look into the automotive and assembly industry, it's the fourth bubble here on the left. You can see that the bubble is actually not the biggest, but also not the smallest. And therefore, the value gains that we could achieve and tap into are quite large. Zooming in even further, what you can see here is on the x-axis, the different operations and different functions in an organization, and on the y-axis, the complexity of the projects. And obviously, depending on the size of the bubble, the value that you can get relatively to your annual revenue in the organization is smaller or bigger. Now, you know probably the number and how high the annual revenue is of each organization. I don't know that, but you can probably do the calculation yourself and figure out, how much the value is that you can get. Obviously, the biggest use case remains predictive maintenance, but we also have a quite large bubble, for example, for pricing and promotion in the marketing function. Now, if we look into what is DataIQ doing with AI and ML in the manufacturing industry, you can actually see the same picture that we have seen before, that we have all different kinds of use cases across different functions that are developed in DataIQ today. They span from research and development all the way to, for example, customer care, even though, as you can see here, 50% of all of our customers in the manufacturing space develop use cases in research, development, execution management, and manufacturing and maintenance.
Okay, so I know during this fair, I think there have been a lot of talks about MLOps. So we want to kind of take a look at the life cycle of a machine learning process or model. So from a life cycle perspective, there are these four main categories, one start to prepare, one start to build, eventually one start to deploy and monitor. But although we provide software, it's important to note that it's not about the software, right? It's about allowing different people in this process to work together. And you can see as soon as you start preparing and working on your use case, you might only be working with a business analyst and a data scientist or a data engineer. But actually, if your use case is going to be successful, you're going to have to work together with all these different functions. What Marie was saying earlier, we have a kind of a different, if you look at the big consulting companies, all of them are saying that 70 to 80, maybe even up to 90% of the projects don't make it to production. And one of the big reasons is because it's not been designed to have to work across all these different function domains. If we take a look at the cost for you as an organization, often you initially only consider the cost in the beginning. Like you think about the tech stack you need to kind of develop certain use cases. That's kind of what you, let's say, prognose. Where the real value is actually as soon as you will be able to kind of deploy your model. And by not being able to deploy your model, you have, of course, a lot of costs that don't have any reason of being there. Also interestingly is how much you would think with €1 spent on this, let's say, first bucket, how much running cost would that imply? An MIT study shows that for every €1 you spent on the design phase, you have to kind of consider €100 or dollars or whatever, like that's the kind of the metric, on running such a thing in production. By being able to design with governance in mind, by better qualification in the beginning, the whole process should hopefully bring a lot more value to you. Introducing data IQ. So the different use cases that Marie just showed, like we are here to systemize AI for organizations. And like maybe you would have expected a manufacturing pitch, but also in a manufacturing organization, functions as marketing, HR, finance are really important functions within your organization. So we provide a platform to unify AI across the different people, across your domains, allowing everyone to kind of leverage and share their knowledge with one another. Also importantly, that there is a streamlined path to production, right? Like that you don't stick into POC phase, you don't get stuck there, that you design with data products in mind. All of that from a visual canvas. So there's one common language that hopefully everyone in the organization is able to understand. And then lastly, and importantly, integrated in your stack, governance and scale. So you don't start thinking about governance at the end, right? You need to start thinking about the data that you are using, et cetera, from the beginning. So we connect to the kind of your investments that you've already done and make that available to the different people in your organization. And of course, like we have a booth, so if you're interested, drop by later and happy to kind of show you the ins and outs of the product. Then I'd like to kind of talk you through one use case. So GA Aviation is a customer of us. They have actually onboarded over 1,000 users on Data IQ. And like, if you really want to make an impact with AI in your organization, you don't just want to ramp up your data scientists. That's really, it doesn't really scale, right? Like, if you want to make an impact and be transformative, you need to think about how you're going to involve the other persons. So that's what actually the journey we have been on with GE Aviation, where they said, hey, why not turn the business into data professionals? And then Data IQ will allow you to act as a center of excellence, as a more, let's say, as a data science organization, to bring functionality to the business folks, to allow you to spend more time on the more advanced stuff in your domain, and also make sure that you keep progressing, right? That you don't get stuck into maintenance of all the things that you've been building. And then with GE Aviation, some of the use cases or some of their results. So I just mentioned over 1,000 users, but they were able to deliver over 2,500 data products, being automated projects, being published data sets that they then provide into the organization. And for instance, they are able to deploy to production within 2 minutes. So they fully automated that cycle and use, let's say, our MLOps features to realize that. And then I just wanted to highlight some of the use cases we've been doing with them. So in the supply chain, improve data insights from shop floor, streamline their different processes, redesign parts to build jet engines, etc. But also finance, better understand costs, better understand cash, or within their marketing department to better understand their customers. So yeah, that's Murray. Let me hand it over to you actually.
Sure. We're probably also over time, but if you want to read a bit further, you can just scan actually the QR code right there and you will get to an ebook that we suggest as further reading. And obviously, if you have any additional questions, we are upstairs, we have a booth and happy to talk to you.